But the first one that I picked out was actually playing for Chile, who didn't have the greatest of tournaments. I think they showed flashes of what they're capable of, but they're still not in a position as a country. They still haven't recovered quite to the levels that they were under Sampaoli, under Bielsa, when Chile were something special. But the player that I picked out from them is Darío Osorio, who is a 19-year-old left-footed, right-sided attacker. So straight away, when you say those words, left-footed, right-sided, you know that he's one who wants to come inside, wants to get shots off at goal, wants to attack diagonally. He currently plays in Chile for Universidad de Chile, um, another side who kind of fell on hard times a little bit in recent years, but seem to be coming back. But they've always been a club who have really developed youth and developed young talent really well. I think Osorio is interesting because out of all the players that I've picked, I think he's the one that's generated the greatest interest already from Europe. There were rumours in January of bids from Milan, interest from the Premier League in terms of Spurs and Aston Villa looking at him. I don't think any of that became concrete because he's still in Chile, and if any of those clubs really wanted to make the deal, I'm sure that they could. But he is a player that I don't think is going to be in South America for much longer, and he will, I think, make a jump straight to the top five European league from South America. Um, when you watch him play, there are elements of Arjen Robben in that when he gets the ball on the right hand side, you know where he's going. Nobody thinks that he's going to attack down the outside, although I think he is capable of it. He just wants to come inside and kind of occupy and attack from the half spaces and look to get shots away. One of his goals in the domestic league was a stunning strike when he cut inside on his left foot from far out from an angle, and he managed to hit the far top corner with a swerving, dipping shot, and that alone will have caught the eye of people who've been watching him. And quite often in these cases, scouts will be watching on video tracking data, and Osorio's data is strong and the video is strong, so he will be a player who's generating a lot of interest. But I do think that there are still a lot of raw edges to his game. He's still a little bit not slow, but he can be a little bit casual on the ball at times when you just know that he's got the ability to really grab a game and make something happen. But he almost likes to slow down a little bit and toy with the opponent instead of just bursting past. But he's a player who's already made his debut at senior international level for Chile. He has 3 caps to his name already, and that alone, I think he will continue to be an important player for them going forward.
Yeah, just sort of looking at Osorio's sort of his vitals, if you will. It seems as though he's quite tall for a winger, and maybe that where the sort of the comparison with Arjen Robben comes in, because despite what Robben was like, he similar to Kulusevski at Spurs, he's quite tall for a winger who likes to cut inside and seems to have a very low center of gravity. And just looking at sort of Osorio's his performances, sort of just on a stats basis, Chile only scored 2 goals at this year's under-20 South American Championship, and it looks as though he had a hand in both of them.
Yeah, his size is interesting. He's 184, so 6 foot 1 basically. Um, Not small, and he's not one who is taller but plays small. He is quite stocky and powerful, and that does help him when he generates power. I think that part of his game has been learning how to harness that, because as well as being, I've said he can be casual, but when he clicks into gear and really goes, he can really move as well for somebody who is relatively tall. I think he's about the same height as me, and I'm confident he could beat me comfortably in a foot race. Uh, he has a burst, and he's capable when the ball's on the opposite side of the pitch. What I always look for in a winger is the willingness and ability to crash the far side of the box. You don't want a winger who wants to kind of hang around and be slow and not make those off the ball runs. But something that is in Osorio's game is that he will quickly look to attack the far post, even the central area, as anticipating that ball into the area. And because of his size and because of his speed and because of his power and because that people are now aware that he's generating a reputation now for being able to score goals, I think that because of all those things, when a player makes those off-ball runs, he really disrupts and causes issues for the opposition defensive block, because they're very aware of the fact that he's coming in at speed and he's got this ability to finish, and it can create space within the penalty area for teammates as well, which is an interesting trait to have. I think that going forward, if he does make the move to Europe, you would see a player who's very much a modern winger and that he's comfortable playing in transitions. But I think that he does need to add and develop his defensive side as well. I think there are times when you really want to see him use that physical capacity he has to press and counter press, and look to disrupt opposition build up. And whereas he does make the movements to press, he doesn't always do it with the intensity that you really need to play in a big team in a big league. And I think that that's something that coaches, when they're looking at him, and when he does move on, that's something that his coaches at the new club that he moves to will look to work on with him.